The first step to get started with your digital escape room is to do some planning. So the first thing is to define what your learning goal is. What exactly do you want your students to get out of this content or to be able to do at the end of this lesson? So this could be extra practice for something that you've taught on, or it could be introducing new vocabulary or any of those things. So identifying the standard that you're working on or the exact skill. Next, you're going to come up with what the storyline is or theme, and this will guide you in the rest of these pieces. So your learning goal does not necessarily have to match your theme or story. So in the escape room that I made for staff, it was about Illuminate. My goal was that you would be able to navigate around in Illuminate to find these different things. But the storyline that I had was about getting locked in the copy room. So you could see getting locked in the copy room really has nothing to do with Illuminate, but that was my story to get you into it. So you could think of a story that the kids already know. You could do something like being locked in a tower, such as Rapunzel, where she has to let her hair down, and then your escape would be figuring out a way out of the tower or something like that. And then that would guide the images that you would be looking for to add to your escape room. Next would be your questions and answers. So again, going back to that learning goal, what do you want them to get out of this? And then that would be your clues that they would be going around. They could be solving problems, they could be completing puzzles, they could be finding clues, finding definitions, and then entering that into a Google form, which is where your questions and answers will be. That will be your clues and what they call locks. So in other words, if they don't get the answer correct or enter the right phrase, they won't be able to go on to the next question and then unlock or get out of the room. Your images and videos are going to be what you want them to be able to find in your room. So you're going to be using a Google Slide and a Google Form. So your images will be placed into the slide to make it look as if it's a room somewhere. And then your clues could be links or things that are hidden. So when you click on those objects, it would link out to either a video or a clue. Then you need to also think about what is your reward. So at the end, when they solve it, do they get a screen that pops up and says, you won? Do they get a little badge? Do they get points? So be thinking about as they meet their learning goal, what is it that you're giving them to show that they have completed the activity? So once you have all of these ideas in mind, you can be starting to gather your images. And what I recommend is to create in your drive a folder where all of these pieces could be in that folder so that you could create your escape room for that particular escape room. Maybe you're making more than one. You could create a folder that keeps all of these pieces, which will help you in the next step and keep you organized. So here we are in step 2. I have created my folder called Escape Room in my drive, and within that folder I have created a folder for my Illuminate Escape Guide and for my new folder that I'm going to be working on with you now from Escape from the Tower. So I have created my planning where I am going over my objective, my learning objective, as well as ideas for the images that I'll be looking for my Google Slide. So my learning goal is to round to the nearest 10 or 100. My theme or story is that the evil queen has locked me in the tower and you must escape. I haven't filled out any of the answers or clues or locks yet because I wanted to focus on creating that Google Slide and with these images. I wanted to show you a nifty trick if you are sharing things with your students, such as I will be sharing this blank guide for you so that you can create your own escape room with your kids. I'm going to backspace on the word edit and change that to the word copy. So look what happens. So as soon as I clicked enter after the word copy, when you get this, it will force you to make your own copy so that you will have a copy of this guide in your Google Drive. So it will say make a copy. And this is exactly what you want your kids to do when you create a copy for them so that they are not taking your templates. I'm making a blank Google slide. And the first thing that I want to do is look for my background. I'm going to click here where it says insert image, but I want to search the web. And you will see over here on the right hand side, it will show me. So I'm going to search the web and I want to look for a PNG image. And the reason I want to do that is I want to search for images that have a transparent background. So with that, I can layer the images over each other and I won't have a white background that shows. So I'm going to look for a castle background. I don't know if that will come up with anything, but we'll look. There's lots of Disney ones. So what I wanted to do though was show the inside. So I'm just going to get rid, I don't think you need to see me at this moment. So what I probably am going to look for is perhaps I need to add more words to my search. So what I'm looking for is, oh, here's one. This one looks pretty good because you can see that there's a carpet. You can see that there's a lamp, and I did have that on my list of things to look for. So I'm going to choose this one, and then I can resize. And I want it to cover the entire slide. Sometimes your images don't look good when they're stretched like this, so that's what I'm looking at now to see. It looks a little bit stretched, so what I might do is look for a better image that's not going to look stretched like that. And there is no real fast way at doing this step. It's going to be trial and error. So this could work here. So let's try that one and see. So again, I'm doing this on the fly with you just to show you it doesn't magically happen. So if you are getting frustrated, I want to show you that this is kind of part of the process, is collecting those backgrounds, collecting those images, and then saving them so that you can use them. So in this case, I'm seeing that this part is cut out. Well, what I could do is this, I can crop this image and get rid of the white spot, and I'll show you how to do that. Now when I stretch it up, there's that. So you can see that it looks like a grass background. I could cover that with a rug. I could put a door here. So those are all things that I can add. And again, I'm going to layer these images on top to build this room. So I'm going back over here. I'm going to make sure that I'm out of that image because I don't want to replace that image. I don't, so what, because I had the little blue dots, I don't want to, as soon as I add another image, it will replace that image. I don't want to do that. So I'm making sure that I went over here and clicked so that I'm not in that image. I'm going to add another image and I'm going to search the web. I'm going to keep the letters P and G there, so I make sure that I have a transparent. I'm going to look for a carpet. transparent so that I have a little bit of control over that. And you can see there's different carpets here. Lots of different things that I could use for my castle. And then I'm waiting till it shows me this little like square directional thingy, and that is what I can use to move it. These are reshaping or making it smaller. This is going to allow me to layer it over on top. I definitely need a door because in my story they're being locked inside. Well, you can't be locked inside if you don't have a door, a way to get out. So I want to make sure that I am adding that door. So again, searching the web, you'll see it shows up right over here because you're actually able to search right within slides. I'm going to choose this one to give it that medieval look. Again, resizing. And then another thing I wanted to show you is that with this door, I can go back and I can format this door. Going to Format Options, and now I get this menu over on the right hand side. I can recolor that door. I can say it needs to be black and white. I can say that it needs to be a completely different color. I can maybe make it more match the floor so it looks more like a carpet if you wanted to, so that it more matches. Whatever you want to do is it's your escape room. On top of that, you can do a shadow, a reflection. There's adjustments here, such as the one that I made for my Illuminate one. The scenario was that you were locked in the copy room with the lights off. So that's why everything had to get really dark. So with that, I was able to change how transparent that image was. And you can see how my door kind of disappears by making it more and more transparent. That's why I'm using a PNG file, because I can control how my layers look over top of each other. And I can decide how bright the color is or how dark the color is. So you can get a lot of shades of color in there. And that way you could hide your links a little bit, so when they're trying to find things, they're not as obvious, by adjusting the brightness and the contrast of your objects. Because your text boxes that you're adding those links to, you can kind of make them blend in a little bit. So that's how this step looks right now. So this is your slide. So I'm going to rename my slide. Again, it's going to be in Escape from the Tower. So I'm keeping everything a universal name so that I can, again, stay organized. And I will go into my Google Drive and make sure that this slide deck goes into that folder that is also called Escape from the Tower. For our third step, we're going to work on creating our Google form. So that is this icon right here. So I have my escape room partially finished in my slide. And what I did to get ready for my form was I worked on putting some items that would help me ask the questions that would match my learning objective. So you can see that I found a couple of free worksheets. I found a poster that I was able to crop and make an image out of. And then I also found a couple of videos that I put the links in right here so that I can add all of these pieces to my escape room as links and I can ask questions about them. So they're going to be my clues to answer the questions. So then I had put a couple of ideas for questions that I could ask in my Google form. So I'm going to start my form. Again, I'm going to give it the title. This is where I can type my story. So as you remember, I put some ideas from in my planning tool for my story. So I'm not going to elaborate a lot on my story at this moment. I'm just going to copy my ideas that I wrote here into my form as part of the story. Now I'm going to put my first question. So again, I'm going back to my planning guide and putting my first question. You want to be as explicit as possible for the students to understand what they are to do. So please type the word in all caps, or you could be really explicit in all capital letters. Now over here is where it deviates from the normal of how you are probably used to using a form, or maybe you aren't used to using a form, but right down here I am requiring the question that they have to answer. But on these dots, the snowman right here, I'm going to click on and I'm going to turn on validation. Oop, let me get myself out of the way. Response validation. So what that does, and that's why it's important that I'm using all capital letters and I'm telling my students that it has to match exactly how they type it in. So if I had not told them to use capital letters and some of them used capitals and some of them didn't, or maybe they used a mixture, it would mark it wrong. So what I want to tell them is that you're going to use all capital letters. So you might need to do a little bit of instruction on how that looks before they start this, because that response validation needs to match exactly. So when I turn on the response validation, it's going to say a number. Well, I don't want a number here. I wanted the word, right? So I'm going to change that to text. I want it to contain this word. And again, I'm typing it in all capital letters because I want it to match exactly. So double check my spelling that I did make an error. And then it says custom error text. So if they get it wrong, give them a clue. You could give them a clue right here. So for this clue, they're going to be listening to a song. So I'm going to tell them, find the song that gives you the clue, because they're going to be clicking around and find all kinds of clues that I have put in there and hidden in there. They might not know which clue matches this question. I'm keeping it at short answer. I'm going to do answer validation. It looks like it's already on. Response validation has been added. So once I add it to the first one, each continuous one that I add is following that same pattern. If it doesn't, remember you're going to the snowman and you could add that responsive validation again. In this case, it's going to be a number. So I want the number is the number. And then I might give them the instructions for them to type in the number, that they're not going to be expected to spell the number, but I need to tell them that because otherwise they're guessing. Now I have 2 responses. I can keep adding the rest of my questions, which I will go back and do later, but I wanted to show you how to do that. Now I'm going to go to this I. The I is preview, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like if they type in the wrong word or don't have capital letters. and see it pops up with that clue. Find a song that tells you this vocabulary word. I could also add, if I wanted to go back, because I did it in lowercase, I didn't use capitals, I could add that clue. After that, I could go back and fix that and say, find a song that tells you the vocabulary word, remember to use capital letters. Then they would have 2 clues. So you see I have 2 tabs open with the form. This one was the preview. This one, I can just go back and click there. I don't have to go back and find it again. It's just opening it into a second tab. In the song, it actually spells out the word, so you might even tell them it has to be spelled right. So I could add that too. So I'm going to the settings right here, and it says that I'm collecting email addresses and response receipt. You don't have to if you don't want to. You could have it open to anyone. So let me just show you what that looks like. You could restrict users to Williams Unified if they're in your classroom, if you're in your Google Classroom, and you could do that. You could also add a question which gets their first name and last name to help to make it easier for you to find out which student has answered it. You can go over here to presentation. You can show them the link to submit another response. So that allows them to answer more than once. So they could play this again and again and again. That's fine. So I did not limit it to one response because I wanted them to be able to play it again and again so that if they did not solve it the first time, they could go back and do it again. Or maybe they solved it, had lots of fun, and they wanted to do it again. It's practice. Why not? You could do a confirmation message right here that they did a great job. And I'm going to hit save. Step 4, we're almost done. We're back at the slide deck. You'll notice that on my slide, I added some more items than was there before. I added a lock to the door. I added some torches for the light. I added some bread and water because, you know, we're locked in the tower. I'm sure that you're not going to be getting all of your favorite foods when you're locked in the tower in the castle. So I'm going to hide all of my links now, all of my clues into these images. So I'm just going to do a couple of them to show you how it works. So I'm going back to my planning guide. Remember I had showed you that I had put some links to some YouTube songs and clues and activities here. So I'll just copy this link and then I'm going to hide it in my slide. So what I'll do is I'll click on one of the objects and then I'm going to click on this link and I'm going to paste the link. And then I'll apply. And I'll see how it looks and make sure that it's kind of hidden. So you see, you don't see anything. You don't see anything until in presenting view, and then when I click on it, it would show. I also found this game. It has nothing to do with any of the clues, but it's a game where they could get more practice, and I think the kids would enjoy it. Even though it doesn't answer a specific clue, it gives them practice. So I'll click on these dice and then insert this link right here. Move myself out of the way again. There's the game. So when they are clicking around, you'll see it doesn't tell them what clue this goes to. It just brings stuff up and then they have to figure it out. That's why it's really important that on your form you have that in there. Speaking of which, on the form, they're not going to be able to see the form unless I link it. So I need to go up here to my form and I need to share it with them. So right here where it says send, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on this link button and I want to shorten the URL so it's not so long and then copy it and I'll go back to my slide. And in this case, I want to make the form part of the door or the lock specifically because the form is what unlocks the door. So I'm going to click on that lock. I'm going to click on the link. I paste that form. Whoops, did it do it? Looked like it was doing it and then it went away. Now it's the form. One last thing I wanted to show you before, and I'll finish this before I share it out with you, but before you share this out as a shareable link, you don't want the kids to be able to scroll through and see your final piece. You don't want them to open the door without them answering all of the questions and getting the message that they won. So I'm going to actually click backspace in that link all the way up to that /forward. So you're backing that up after the / preview question mark RM equals minimal. That is the link that you will be using. So I'm going to Control C so I can just show you. I'm going to open a new tab over here and I'll show you how that looks. Control V. Now when it comes up, it will mimic very much what a website looks like. So that link, the RM equals minimal, opens it up so that there's no navigation. They can't click around. The only thing they can do is click around and answer your questions. So on this, you might, at the story on the form, you might tell them, start at the door, click on the lock, whatever to get them started, because otherwise they're clicking around and they're seeing clues, but they don't know what it goes to. But you might want to give them the hint about where to start. And then what they would do is they would start clicking and those links will open up and it will link out. Some of them will link to different things. Like I told you, this one went to a YouTube video. So it's going to YouTube right now. There, I'll go back here, click on that lock. It's going to take me to that form. So their navigation, and something that you might have to teach them, is that it's opening a different tab each time and then they can click back and forth. They can click to the form, they can click to the tower. So back and forth, they'll have to navigate and you might need to teach them that part. It's really fun to do an escape room with your kids, but like I say, the first time that they've done one, you might have to give them a little bit of instruction of how to navigate this as a game. And I hope that you have lots of fun with it and lots of fun creating it.